All right, there we go. Yes. Good morning and good afternoon to a few of you. Welcome to today's community briefing. My name is Gregory Sneed. We're glad you're here. Today is the 23rd of May in 2024, and our guest today is Michael Anderson. Michael, this may be his third time coming on our show as a guest. He always brings some great information. Certainly the first time this year. He attends often. He is a dynamic individual here in the city of Los Angeles, doing a lot of things that he's going to be sharing with us. So he will get his proper introduction momentarily. But sit back, relax, and enjoy. And now, again, my name is Gregory Sneed. My company, Lifesaver Financial Services. My pleasure now to bring to the virtual stage the queen of our community briefing, Miss Crystal Mitchell. Yep, he's muted. One more time. Dum, dum, dum,
okay,
dum,
there we
dum,
go.
Dum, dum. Okay, there we go.
I was on my other screen and it wouldn't
That's
get over.
cold, Greg. You've been mixing Crystal all day long.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the community briefing. We are here for another great conversation in the community briefing. Mr. Michael Anderson has just been doing some great things in the space of housing, which is so vitally important in today's world, not just here, but actually across the country. I saw an interesting news article this morning on how home buying and housing is so complicated across the whole entire United States, and we need solutions. I am the co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, as well as the inspiration behind the community briefing. It was created so that we would have a space that we could meet our leaders and stakeholders, have very important conversations that we need to have, stay informed as to what is going on in our communities and around us that pertain to us as people of color, minority people, Black people, brown people. And so it's very, very important that we talk with people who are sitting at tables with conversations that really pertain to us. So thank you for joining us. We have some of our favorites here and some of our regulars here and some of our visiting. Miss Colette just popped in. She's been doing some great things. Congratulations to her new grandbaby, and as well as her son graduating from, I believe, college. She'll let us know that. But some good stuff is happening in her world. This platform is powered by Recycling Black Dollars and the BBA, the Black Business Association, and monetarily sponsored by Los Angeles LDC, as well as Vermont, as well as Southern California Edison, SoCal Gas, PCR, and Wells Fargo Bank. And we're always welcoming more donations to keep us moving forward. We have a fantastic team. You've already met Mr. Gregory Sneed and Mr. Stephen Turner. He's the producer and he makes stuff happen. That's how folks get here. It's through Stephen and myself and Ms. Robin Billups. I imagine she's popping in because Michael is her guy and she'll be in soon. So thank you all. Thank you all that are regularly joining us. Kyle, you're new. Welcome. Brian, you're new. Welcome. Cheyenne's Otto is new as well. Dion.
Her AI.
Her AI is here. So welcome to you all. And with that, I'm going to turn it right back over to Mr. Gregory Sneed.
Right on. Thank you, Crystal. And Stephen will join us momentarily. And we're hoping to see Robin Billups sometime soon. So our guest today is Michael Anderson. Michael, I don't know if I ever knew your middle initial. You have a middle initial?
It's H. It's for Hervey.
H?
Yeah, my grandfather's maiden name.
Herbert, you said?
Hervey. It's
Hervey.
Okay. Yeah, got it. All right, good. Michael H. Anderson, and he is a principal at Anderson Barker Architects. And as an architect and urban designer, Michael's focused on the economic development and modernization of Black and brown underserved communities. We certainly have that here in Los Angeles. He has 30 plus years of experience as a registered architect working on transit, aviation, schools, urban design and redevelopment projects across Los Angeles, San Diego, and Philadelphia. And he helped design the Metro, Compton, Rosa Parks, Willowbrook Watts station, and providing a better quality of life for children, young adults, and seniors. Michael hails from St. Louis, Missouri. Did I say it right? Missouri.
Well, it's Missouri, but Robinson.
Missouri, yeah.
I call it misery sometimes.
Misery, okay.
What's like, but she's gonna slap me when she sees me. She's
yeah.
So
he's an author of a book, Urban Magic. Vibrant Black and Brown communities are possible, and they are. And through activism, communication, and people getting involved and doing the things that Michael does. He's got some exciting projects in general. He's got a couple specifically that he's going to be talking about today. So without further delay, please join me in welcoming to the virtual stage, Michael H. Anderson.
George, you sound like it's a Hollywood production, but thank you. At least, they don't say my middle name, because when they start saying all the names, then they start thinking you're an assassin. That's the way they always go, Lee Harvey Oswald or something. So yes, please say Michael H. or something like that. But anyway, I'm very grateful to be here. I'm glad, this is like Saturday Night Live. It's my third time being back, but I'm also grateful to give you all an update on where we are on the Accelerated Housing and Transit Development Project. And actually, I'm grateful to, for you all to make this voice to the community, because community briefing, I feel the purpose is to inform the community of what tangible opportunities are out there and how to mobilize, create call for action. And so for that, even though I'm going to give you an update, I'm really going to request a call for action to make our officials knowledgeable about where this project is. And I'm not saying that for me, I'm saying it because we have a history of leaving money on the table. And there has never been so much funding available through the Biden administration, specifically for underinvested, marginalized communities at the scale anytime in history, that has to be put out by 2026, that is going to be left on the table, is the feeling that I get. And so that's one of the reasons why this project evolved to the level that it is. Sometimes when you tell people you're asking for $60 billion for underserved community, they're like, wow, that's a lot of money. But I'm like, our housing challenge in Los Angeles is a $700 billion problem. And if you look at how real estate investment happens, where the opportunities is sort of like where the land is less developed. And so, Crystal, you were talking about the report that was out today about the challenges of buying housing. After the 2008 housing crisis, middle-income families learned, investors, to pull together capital to buy foreclosed real estate and turn that into rental properties. As a result, they've absorbed all the housing that was available. And so that's part of the thing that's feeding the cost of rental rates being high. Because as you know, when there's a limited supply, prices go up. And so the impact on Black and Brown communities is tremendous. And our homeless problem, and I got to commend Mayor Bass for what she's doing, but it's really a Band-Aid on the problem, because what's feeding the problem is LA County needs 800,000 units of housing today. And until we get to a place where we're starting to deliver housing, we won't have a solution. So what I'm going to do is give you an update on the Accelerated Housing and Transit Development Project. But I want to let you know that I really want to get Black and Brown political leaders around these transit stations for us to have an action to make a large request to formalize funding investment into underserved communities and establishing a team to deliver the housing and infrastructure. That's what this project is about. And so, George, when you said I've been in architecture for 30-some years, I've actually been in architecture for 46 years. And I have seen how LA has evolved, and I have seen where projects have been successful and where they have not. This project is a summation of putting the energy into what's worked in other parts of LA that has not been applied to our communities, but make it possible. And so when I've asked for $60 billion, it's because that's the scale it takes to start to deal with our problem. It really would take actually about 120 to 150 billion in seed capital to solve our problem. So with that, let me just walk you through the project and give you an update. But the call of action is, I really would like to have the council members, Marquise Dawson, Heather Hutt, Mayor Bass, and County Supervisor Mitchell, look at the opportunity of the funding for our communities so that we can start reversing the quality of life in our communities that existing Black people benefit. So with that, let me just get you started with this, and we'll walk through it, and then we'll have some questions for you. I'm really looking forward to you all answering the questions. But again, I'm pleading for a call to action because the Biden administration just released $27 billion. They're looking to disperse it by October this year. And it's basically climate funding, and they're desperately searching for how to get this money to the streets. And also, this is one of the things when people say the president's not doing anything, this is really reason why, because we don't have the deals to ask for the money. So with that, let's get started. I know I'm gonna make you uncomfortable, but that's part of us. You're gonna be uncomfortable, but the bottom line is to make it a great place. So you know the title of the project called Accelerated Housing and Transit Development. It's approached as an underserved community project. It's actually an investment strategy. And so if you look at what LAX is doing in its modernization, that's basically a public-private partnership that uses federal funds matched with private capital to build a new rental car facility, to build the APM that you see, and to build the new terminals. This is how we're looking at to make the investments in our communities. The goal is if we get about 25% complete in the next 4 years, we'll be ready for the Olympics, and you'll see a better quality of life, and you'll see these stories about what happens when Metro's transit stations go down. So this is kind of an overview of what we're going to go through, why we must act now, the problem, the cost, and the solution, and how we pay for it, because we all know housing for Black and brown people is a problem. Rental rates are a problem. So we have to come up with a solution that works in everybody's interest and how we pay for it. And one of the things that motivated me is when you have a lot of money and a large economic equation, people want to participate. So don't ask for a $10 million project. Let's deal with it at scale where we know the private capital sources will come up and participate. But also to use climate funding as a method of reparations to create family wealth. And we're going to show you how that benefits existing families. And then to center it around Metro's transit stations in our underserved communities. The reason is because that's what federal funding will fund, anything to get rebuilt in a half-mile radius of a Metro transit station that's owned by a public municipality. And then I'll show you the proof of concept, and I'll show you the capital proof of returns. I've met with DOT. They're ready to underwrite the infrastructure of this project. That's a $24 billion ask. That was looked at better than Metro's because this strategy shows how the federal government gets their money back. And this is the most important reason to me why we must do this, because when parents do well, we know kids do well. And so this is not just a project about delivering housing. It's to help continue the work of those that came before us, from Harriet Tubman to Martin Luther King and everybody, to make our communities self-sustaining and create generational wealth so our children can be educated and be self-sustaining adults to make life better. So this is the problem we have in LA. When people say we know we have a housing problem, I always look at it like, what is the financial equation? LA County needs 800,000 units of housing today. This is the reason why homelessness is constantly going up on a daily basis. 600 billion would be the cost to deliver 800,000 units of housing if you could deliver, somebody wrote you a check. But the infrastructure to make that happen would cost about 100 billion. And then there's insufficient revenues for Metro and cities to have the public services. So we basically looked at how suburbs were developed and reverse engineered that to be applied to the inner city urban areas that leverages the federal executive orders under President Biden, such as Justice Party, to make that an opportunity in our communities where we use infrastructure investment as a tool to beautify the communities and use housing climate funding as a tool to convert mom's house into courtyard fourplexes. And so when I say turbocharge the delivery of both of these, that's a method of where when the federal government approves the funding for the infrastructure, we go to private capital sources right away and start doing the work immediately, and then pay back the private investors as the federal governments give you your release in funds. Because Congress gives you funding over a 5-year period. If you ask them for $24 billion, you're not going to get it right away. You may get an allocation of $2 billion the first year. But this way you start doing the work right away, and you can bypass Prop 209 and because you're using private capital. So this is the thing. LA never makes a big ask when LA is the largest economy in the United States as a county. It produces almost a trillion, just about 800 to $900 billion a year in GDP. This project will increase that by about 1 to 2%. So we're making a $25 billion infrastructure ask, $1 billion per transit station, and $35 billion to subsidize between 80,000 and 100,000 Black and brown families to convert their single family houses into a courtyard fourplex. But what this does is this benefits LA County and the utility companies, because when you develop in our underserved communities that have the oldest infrastructure that's almost 90 to 100 years old. So if you're going to do a development, the DWP or Southern California Edison will tell you you have to upgrade their infrastructure so that you can do your project. That adds a cost to the project. The average affordable housing project usually gets hit with a $3 million cost increase to upgrade the electrical system to serve that project. We want to take that out of the equation. And that way you're undercutting the market for investment in our communities. But it also becomes a job creation, but then where all this combines to make a better quality of life. So I met with DOT in April last year and shared this concept with them, and they were blown away. They said nobody in the nation has presented a project of this scale. We had McKinsey & Company do an economic impact assessment and risk mitigation to show them the cash flow they would go back to the county and the jobs generated. DOT said this project's ready to meet with the underwriters, but I'm at the County of Los Angeles. They said that in August 2023, any place like Santa Monica, Glendale, or Culver City, the city administrator would have been with DOT ready to underwrite that deal. And that's part of my ask of the community briefing is to alert our officials, we need to act now. I'm doing that on my own basis of negotiating and talking with DWP and other officials, but I have not met with the mayor. I have not met with the supervisor about this. I met with staff, but it takes the officials to act. But this project would not start paying the federal government back until 5 years after the project is complete. Completion is around 2035 because it's a 10-year modernization project. But the global think tank calculated by that time we start paying back, the county would make $60 billion in property taxes, $10 billion in sales taxes, which will help Metro, and accrued $162 million in carbon credits. So let me show you how to get this community ready and how this can be done. So using federal funds, these are basically two major sources that we're using. TAFIA, two transportation sources. TAFIA, which is a transportation fund, and the Railroad Rehabilitation Act, because these pay for infrastructure and municipal facilities around transit stations. And then we're going to use climate funding and Justice 40 to help Black and brown families convert their houses into a courtyard fourplex. But the quality of life around us, and I'm really just showing you not to show the people, but I'm showing you how investment has happened around Metro's transit stations along the Expo line in Culver City, yet we have transit lines in Compton, Watts, Willowbrook that do not have this quality of life. Nor are middle-income Black and brown people moving back to the community, they're moving out of the community. Goal is to reverse that trend. So TAFIA pays for any municipal infrastructure, utilities in a half-mile radius. And so when you look at a Metro station like at Slauson and DWP, that would mean you could actually, if you had it designed and built, you could ask for funding to rebuild every street, sidewalk, lighting fixture, park, municipal parking structure in that area, if you make the right type of deal. That's the funding we're seeking. And at the same time, this corridor that I'm going to show you is that runs along Long Beach Avenue. That's our backup corridor for the Alameda Corridor project should a fire happen or something. So something happened to the Alameda Corridor, to keep trade going, we have to keep this line going. We can make that into a railroad corridor along with bike paths and beautify it. That's what I've offered Union Pacific Railroad to allow us to move DWP to the site. So the federal funding will pay for rebuilding wet and dry utilities. And in this concept, we're adding a water reclamation facility at each transit station. This is the one operating in Santa Monica that opened last year in March. It recycles 1 million gallons of water a day. So if you think about that, the 24 stations we're going to show you, this would operate, that means we would be recycling 24 million gallons of water a day in 365 days a year. And that reduces the need to import water. So the goal is to make Black and brown communities fit the 21st century and make them the climate smartest communities that exist for the next 50 years. This attracts people to move back. And when the younger generation moves back, they're going to bring their lifestyles to the commercial corridors. The funding
real quick, is that stormwater recycling?
You can recycle stormwater. You can put catch basins in to keep the trash from going out. And then also you can have that as a summertime job to help kids come with the public works department to clean that out. It becomes a way of making your community smart in the leading communities of the future. But yes, it does recycle stormwater as well. Most of this is to connect up to the gray water systems because we're adding more housing by converting mom's house into a fourplex. That what'll happen is the gray water lines connect up to the water lines and recycle this. This also collects runoff water from sprinklers and things like that and recycle. But the goal is, so how do we, we want to talk about reparations and things, but the goal is, how do we make it so existing Black and brown families can afford to add improvements to their house in a way that helps them generate income? And so we want to use climate funding and leverage that with Justice 40, which prioritizes underserved communities, to convert mom's single-family house into a courtyard fourplex. This is an example of an elderly person on a fixed income in a typical community, Black and brown community. Due to maintenance costs exceeding their fixed income, often when we see this, we say, oh, that's a fixer-upper. Truth is, it's an elderly person that cannot afford the maintenance. And to me, it feels like a betrayal of public service for someone to help us graduate in life, only to be living in a mediocre housing condition. But the kids have moved away because the community was declining and they wanted to raise their kids in a better place near better schools. The purpose of this is to transform mom's house into a courtyard fourplex. So how would she do that? We're giving her a $350,000 climate grant to afford those improvements because the equity in her property is around $600,000 or $700,000. We're adding 3 prefabricated units, 1 3-bedrooms and 2 1-bedroom units around a courtyard. And what that does is now we have 4 household incomes on a lot that raises the lot income to about $300,000. That creates an economic chemistry because now the average house income is almost tripled, was gone up significantly. But that's what investors look for when they start want to make investments into the communities. So when I would do these studies for Metro and them all through the 90s, you read the community say we want Starbucks in the 90s. Today, everybody says they want a Trader Joe's. Really what they want is the quality of life where they see Trader Joe's exist. Trader Joe's comes to areas that have an average household income of $90,000. The goal of this project is to start to convert mom's house into a fourplex to drive up that average lot income, to increase the quality of life and the quality of goods sold in the community. That also will lower the price of the quality of goods as they come in the community as well. But also this becomes a path for when mom makes her transition or the parents make their transition, the kids inherit it. So now they have a house and 3 income properties. And so this becomes a way of delivering more housing that we need to address that 800,000 unit need. But also all of a sudden you're adding 3 units to the lot. And one of these units can be designated low income. Now the $350,000 is a part of that $35 billion ask. That's a loan that the county gets from the federal government, but they pay it back through the tax revenues that are generated from the beautification of these communities. But this is how we make a quality of life where mom can live with the kids, grandkids, or mom and dad, I should say. And that way the kids can learn the lineage of the family as well versus living far out in another area and probably only seeing your grandparents once a month. But this is how we make LA County better. So to make this happen faster, and this is where I get into the turbocharging, we've been working with Plant Prefab, which is growing in Los Angeles. They now have 3 factories in Southern California. So when they assemble the houses in the factory, they come to the site, they get assembled in a day or 2. And the purpose is we're reducing the need for what the building department's involvement is. This is an example of an existing house that we're looking at that actually can be replaced with 3 prefabricated units. We can't do this little element that you see out in the front, but this could be like where if you have your own mom and pop products businesses, you could sell your goods in the streets, but it's a way of making the front of the street active. So when we had McKinsey, the global think tank, look at this and do the economic impact assessment and talk to the factories, they said we could actually deliver the first 1,000 units next year, which will bring 4,000 houses on. But this is the scale of how we can get almost 30% completion by the Olympics. Again, the goal is to have a better quality of life around the metro transit stations. So I'm going to talk about how that happens. So these are the transit stations we're targeting. I completed the Metro TOD study for Metro along the Crenshaw line, and also was the architect, as Greg said earlier, of the Compton Transit Station, the associate architect on the Watts Willowbrook Station, which just got renovated. But if you look at the Watts Willowbrook community, it has the hospital, it has a great station, it has Charles Drew University, it has Magic Johnson Park, but it doesn't have the quality of life we see like in West Hollywood and these other places. This product is to make that happen because by investing into infrastructure, you make it incentive for people to invest into the community. But we want to benefit the existing homeowners first. So this is the typical quality of life around our transit stations, the Crenshaw line at the bottom around Leimert Park, and Highland Park, the blue line, the Slauson station, which is the blue line. But the goal is this project, the infrastructure will pay for rebuilding Leimert Park, rebuilding all the sidewalks and streets you see so that you have uniform trees, solar lighting to light the streets. You actually rebuild the alleys and everything that makes a whole new quality of life and makes it walkable. That also will attract investment. Unlike you see the investment you see happening at these other locations where transit has happened, the investment has made a better quality of life that also supports the quality of living in the single family homes that butts up to these properties. That's what we want to achieve for our community. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of update of where we are with DWP relocating the pole yard. Union Pacific has asked me for a letter of interest from them. It's hard to get these agencies together, and that's the reason why I'm telling you we need to make a call for officials to unite around this. Because I get some people saying, call us when you have the funding. It's like, well, I don't need to call after I get the funding, right? But the goal is we're going to relocate the DWP yard. This is where you can see it adjacent to the metro station. Metro has classified this as an equity-focused community. And I'm like, okay, we keep saying equity, we give these labels. Equity to me is cash, meaning how are you going to put money into the deal to make it happen? That's the purpose of this project. It's not to be just designing a housing and infrastructure solution. It's to design a deal that the county and a unified party along with the utility companies can say, federal government, give us $60 billion. We're going to solve our housing problem and make a better quality of life that generates the revenue to pay you back. This is the Union Pacific Railroad track that will be beautified. We're going to put up a fence like you see at LACMA. That's a steel fence that's beautiful, but it's to keep people from going onto the train tracks and things. And down at the bottom, this is what bothers me the most. This community has a health index of 3 out of 100 points. Nobody will want to be sitting back raising children in a community that you know is that bad. But the Black and brown communities have the poorest health quality. And you have a lot of soil conditions because when they would tear down buildings back in the 30s, 40s, even up to the 60s, they would just bury them. So when they bury those buildings, you have lead, asbestos, and things in the soil. When I did the front entrance to Charles Drew University, we had to import soil because we couldn't grow plants because there was so many metals and coppers and things in the soil. So that's a typical condition. That's the reason why we asked for $1 billion per transit station, because you're going to have unforeseen conditions like that. And after a while, you have enough contingency that you can address those problems throughout all transit stations. So this is kind of showing you the half-mile radius around the DWP site. We were relocated to the site over here where the railroad is. It would get a water reclamation. We would rebuild Augustus Hawkins Park. But then this site would be transformed into mixed-use development that makes it a better station destination, like you saw at La Cienega and Jefferson. That's to make happen at Slauson and the metro station. And this is where the future Southeast Transit Corridor is going to connect up to it. And also water reclamation. So I'm going to end on this around the anticipated outcome. I have like a few more slides, but talk about what the return on investment. And this is what sold the Department of Transportation. This would add 320,000 new units around all 24 of these stations. So basically you're adding about 9,000 units of housing in a mile radius of each station. And you're remodeling about 4,000 houses. But the goal is, like, for example, when we buy the DWP site, whomever our broker is, they're going to have to team with a local mom and pop realtor so that that mom and pop realtor gets a large, significant portion of that commission. And we're also going to ask for an education knowledge transfer. The goal is so that kids in the area can see mom and dad just made about a $200,000 or $300,000 commission on this land transaction, and then they see the property improve. Because again, our purpose is nurturing the children to become the self-sustaining adults that we are. But this was the kicker. LA County would make between $3.5 and $4 billion a year. But by the time we finish this project, they would have about $40 billion a year. Sales taxes will go up about $8 billion. That helps Metro and all these social programs we have receive funding that they can so that they can be successful. And then the most important thing for me, it cuts the carbon emissions by 360 metric tons. That's almost 800 million pounds a year, and makes these communities healthy. And Metro's ridership goes up, meaning you have more good eyes on the trains. That makes it safer and gets the bad eyes away. So this is a quick view at what the schedule will be. You could always see we're behind schedule as usual, but the goal is to show that this is a strategy that the timetable's in place to start rebuilding the homes. And this is sort of the next steps. We sort of already missed one window of opportunity, because for fiscal year 2025 funding, the deadline was March 29th. We had hoped to be able to have the county and the utility companies together to submit a letter of interest to DOT by February, so that officials could start lobbying for this. Senator Padilla's staff knows about it. Senator Butler's staff knows about it. The congressional member staff knows about it. But we don't have the unification of the leadership, such as the congressional representatives directly and the county, to make this ask. I'm trying to meet with the CEO's office, and that seems to be going in the process to talk about this project. But I appreciated that Phasia Davenport, she got it right away in a 5-minute conversation. She understood how much property tax revenue would go directly to the county's general fund based on this equation. So those are the things we have to talk about. And then in the end, this is sort of an example of what the deal structure would look like. And I'm going to close with that and say that the most important thing is to do this for the children, and also to make it possible for existing Black and brown families who are retired to have a better quality of life. And so with that, I'm going to stop, and it's a lot to digest, and I would like to answer any questions you have. But again, my call to action really is, I would like for the community briefing and people on this panel, or this in this meeting, to pressure Marquise Dawson, Heather Hutt, Holly Mitchell, Mayor Bass, and everybody to unite around a project with themselves, as well as the other officials, Janice Hahn and Supervisor Solis's office, to get together as a unified body to make an ask for Los Angeles County. This doesn't just benefit one person or one community. It actually benefits the entire LA County by making all of LA County a better place. So I'll stop there. Now, Robin, hi. And Robin keeps telling me I got too many slides, but I'm trying to I'm too detailed. So
I don't think so. I think that was very informative information. Robin, you want to take over?
Don't let her jump on me right away.
No.
Oh, okay.
All right, go ahead.
That is so wrong, Michael. That is so wrong. First I want to thank our team. We've been talking about this project. We've been talking about opportunity in our community. We've been talking about the resources that are available. We've been talking about the incredible need to vote. And so here we are asking, Michael's call to ask is, help us move the needle in our own community. And the only way we can do that is influence the people that we elect. You're hearing from these young folks, I'm not going to vote because I don't like Biden, and well, it ain't about Biden. It's about democracy. And we have to continue to remember that Michael's standing on the shoulders of his godfather, who was an architect. Michael's been at this for over 40 something years. Majority of us have some long-term experiences in the spaces that we've operated. And so here is an opportunity to create generational wealth, but also just to improve our community. We all know what La Cienega and Jefferson looked like. The mattress store, the old storage building, the vacant lots, the weeds. We know what that corner looked like, and look at it now. So why can't we have that in our own community? But we have to own this. Mm-hmm. We got a person who's a visionary. We have a person who's a lead, but we have to actively engage and get behind, just like we've been asking you guys to get behind the community briefing. Help us grow this grow this platform for opportunities like this. Because the more numbers we have, the more we're going to be heard. And it can't be 5 people. We got 17 people on this call right now. I applaud the work that Crystal and Greg and Stephen do every week. I applaud the work that Colette does every day, the work that Joseph does, the support that Bianca brings as an example of when we collectively come together. So yeah, I'm a little bit on my soapbox today. And I'm on my soapbox because time is running out. Nobody's gonna wait for us. They're not gonna. And what do we do? Stand on the sideline, bitch, moan, and complain. Well, I'm not that person. I'm not that person. Yet I'm very rigid about what I believe in, and so yes, I believe in this project. Yes, it's doable. I bring 40 years of commercial real estate experience to this table with an understanding that we're never at the table until after the fact.
But I would like to interject one thing and say,
Please.
this is one of the reasons why young people think there's no hope, because they don't see the change. Also, there's 1.6 trillion in funding that's been proven and is there. And if people are sitting back saying, if you don't get it, other communities have projects which are called shovel ready to go.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what's going to come to the front of the line, because they're going to say, we have 10% matching dollars. And then this is money out of the 1.6 trillion that Biden's passed, 660 billion is designated as an executive order for underserved communities, marginalized communities, Native American communities, 660 billion. And like I said, the lady said, nobody's presented a project at this scale. It's validated because LA County is the largest GDP producer in the United States. We need to jump on this. And then, because the children need to be elevated, be self-sustaining adults where they can do more than what we do. So that when we live in this community, as we get old, we get to walk around and enjoy the creation that they're doing based on the creation that we've done. And that's the reason why I'm like, the money's there. So when people say the president's not doing anything for me, I'm like, they have. We're not making the money go down to the community, right? And I guarantee you a lot of people are going to come to the community when they see that magnitude of money. When I did LAX, and LAX announced its first $15 billion modernization plan, companies from all around the world have operated to start working on those projects, right? That's what we want to make happen in our community, but make it happen so that we benefit first. We don't want children to have an opportunity for 12 months or a year. This is a 10-year project specifically so a child can get a summer job planting flowers. Then they can learn engineering, architecture, law, real estate, financial investments in things, because they have 10 years while their community is growing to participate in making that change. That's how other communities nurture. It's called generational wealth. So if you look at the evolution of our communities after World War II, government invested in the roads, that made suburbs. That has gone through 3, 4, 5 generations of evolution that has made the wealth gap. The purpose of this project is to accelerate, in some ways, Black and brown families to start to be able to catch up in the gap. Not just because it's the right thing to do. Most importantly, it's necessary as a country to become a cash-rich country and to have a place of a great quality of life. Singapore is 90% home ownership. They have very little homelessness, and it's basically for people migrating from China and other places. But we've really got to get on this now. I mean, it shouldn't be a year that we're trying to figure out how to get money that's under an executive order allocated for us.
No, and to Michael's point, when you
Stephen had a question, and then we'll jump back over.
I was
Robin.
going to ask if anyone has questions, please put them in the chat box or raise your hand on the indicator. But please ask a question that's going to benefit the whole.
We got chat questions. I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
Michael. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Stephen.
Mine is more the call to action that Sarah's not on the call, and I was reaching out for the BBA as well as Edwin Lombard. I told him that you were going to be on today. And Mike, what we're going to do, we have a letter endorsing your idea, and we'll shoot that to you. And other people on the call, I also have call to action. I put in there 2 events where we can get in front of some of our political leaders, current as well as potential, to voice our support of the project to bring housing. I just want to make that point. If you look in the chat. That's it.
And I want to say that we are in a really great position right now as far as politicians that are very involved in our community. Holly Mitchell, my God, that lady is just like, you take it to her, and she's got the energy, the power, the passion. Karen, we have Heather Hunt. So we have people that look like us that we just need to get to them. There are a number of things going on in our communities that we are being quiet on. And unfortunately, guys, here's the thing. when there's only one or two voices speaking, nobody hears us. The only way we're going to acquire and get a decent life for our children, our grandchildren, our great grandchildren is we got to get loud. We can no longer sit under the radar and think that things are just going to magically happen because we go to protest every time they shoot down a Black person. It has to be 365 days. We can't just protest one day and think that that's going to magically work for us. We've been 400 years of oppression for Black folks, and it didn't take one voice one time to get where we are today. So we can't be apathetic. And I'm with Michael, because I don't see an opportunity to buy a house because there is no houses to buy. All I see is big developments coming up and only one individual or one corporation, generally foreign and outside of the state of California, buying up all of the property and then in increasing rents to $4 and $5 and $6 and $7 and $8,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment. Can your child do that? I saw a young lady the other day was complaining. She goes, "Oh my God, my building's been sold and I hope they don't raise my rent. I'm already paying $4,000 and I got 6 roommates in 2 bedrooms. That's insane. That's third world living." Our kids can't even leave home to be adults. They can't get married, which means you can't get grandkids. Not the way you want them.
Well, also the thing is, I'll give you an example. Like Leimert Park has a fence around it, right? In 1992, I secured $600,000 to rebuild the park. In 1999, they rebuilt it exactly as it was, and I was pissed because it was like it needed to be redesigned, right? So they built it, and it failed because it still operated like it did, and so now we got a fence around a park. How do you have a fence around a park that's less than an acre in the middle of downtown Leimert Park? But I say that to say we're not even getting those type of infrastructure projects. That project should have been fun. Somebody should have gone after funding right after the executive order and the passage of the Infrastructure Jobs Act that you would think you would be under construction with Leimert Park right now, but we're not, right? And that's where I get it that officials don't know how to do the deal. To me, that's okay, but you must be brave enough to say, I don't know, but I know somebody else did the same deal over there. How do we make it happen in our community? It's just a question, right? You don't have to hide behind what you don't know. You have to seek what you need to know so that our communities can get this funding that's available for it, right?
This brings some clarity to the fact that I've been working with Michael on this for 3.5 years. And the idea that we have yet to have the real audience with a Holly Mitchell, we can talk to her staff. We've talked to staff in everybody's office. We've talked to staff. Staff has even said to Michael, I want in on this. I'm the person that needs this kind of housing, right? And so, but most politicians are waiting on somebody else to dive into the pool. So what we're asking you guys to do is help us push them. We have to push them because the money, there's a window of opportunity here and it's going to go away. We're fighting with, PCR is fighting with the governor to save money where we're training and working with and advising these business owners. So again, we have to become our own advocates. We literally have, I'm looking at the screen here, and everybody here is of age to understand when I say every day we vote. When you wake up in the morning, you voted to wake up, clothed in your right mind, brush your teeth, wash your face, what clothes you're going to wear. So we vote all day, every day. Now is the time to make that vote more meaningful in that it covers the community, not just your immediate household, but the community. And so again, think about it. The infrastructure is over 100 years old, needs to be fixed. That's government. The transit station was built 20-something, 30-something years ago.
30 years, 1990.
30 years ago, has never been upgraded and is super unsafe. The railroad crossing to this secondary rail to the port has the most unsafe pedestrian crossing in their system. And then the housing that we're talking about in that half a mile radius is owned by these older people who are trying to hang on by their chinny chin chin to keep that property. And generally speaking, they pass it to their kids and they end up selling it because they don't like what the neighborhood looks like. So here we have a solution for each one of these major challenges that happen in our zip code. What do you guys talk
But I
to
want
us?
to interject. It's one thing. This is not just for the homeowner. So, Colette's here in PCR. One of the purposes of this project is to help
Business.
the local CDFIs.
Mm-hmm.
See, the reason is since each family is getting a grant, that's a very safe loan because it has 50% debt, 50% equity, and now you have 3 income properties. The purpose is to direct that loan through the PCRs, through the Vermont Slauson, to where they're using the bank's money to do the permanent mortgage on the remodeled houses. And what we want to do is allow the PCRs and them to earn 1% interest rate. Have everybody that gets a grant, those loans have to go through the CDFIs. But the CDFIs must use the large banks' capital to fund those loans. The reason is because the large banks participated in making redlinings. So we want to figure out how to make it to where the banks are making amends that help the community. So when we talk to Wells Fargo, PNC Bank has talking about their $100 billion for Black and brown communities. Also, Royal Bank of Canada has said that. So we want to make that work for the CDFIs by saying, okay, you want to make amends to Black and brown communities, then you fund the loan through PCR, and then the PCR earn 1% interest on that loan. The reason is because the debt is only 50%, and that's a very safe loan. And then also, they're going to want it, right? It's got income property in an area where it has a housing demand. Right? So the purpose of this is not just to deliver the physical solutions, it's also to deliver financial solutions that allow existing organizations to grow. I don't want other organizations come in and doing larger prosperity because they're from outside the community. If you look at our communities, the nonprofit developers that are developing affordable housing in our communities, they don't live in the community. The staff doesn't live in the community. They're just doing the products, right? So again, we're doing projects in our communities that don't give us a permanent wealth. They don't help anybody in the community. That's the purpose of this project, is to make it where everybody wins. And it's to demonstrate when you do the right magnitude of capital, everybody wins.
And to that point, though, Michael, when you guys go to these groundbreakings and you read about this stuff, and you got 75 units with 1,000 qualified people who qualify to move into those buildings, right? So, really and truly, that's not something to applaud. It really isn't. And to your point, that the brokers, the architects, everybody on that team is from someplace else. So when we talk about recycling Black dollars, we're not recycling money there. But the other thing that the audience needs to understand, these are your tax dollars. So we're just asking the federal government to put the tax dollars back in our community. Give us our part.
Those of you who may not have heard, Cheryl Cashin wrote a book called White Space, Black Hood. And she actually breaks down of how much capital Black and brown families contribute to the federal government and how little goes to the communities in direct projects. It's less than 5%. Just because often we don't have a plan or a project ready, as they call it, shovel ready. There's a system in place that makes it challenging for people who aren't in the game to participate. I'm an architect. I haven't been doing affordable housing. So unless I've been doing affordable housing for 5 years, I can't be a prime architect, right? So that game, those rules were written as the system of LIHTC, low-income tax credits, and those things came out. Those rules are written so that unless you at the beginning and unless you have been designing these houses, it doesn't happen, right? So I have to be associate architect to firms that do the work. But that means I only get about 10% of the fees. I can't be the prime, right? So meanwhile, what's happened is those firms have learned how to design the most efficient houses, which makes it impossible for me to catch up. It's like Boeing trying to catch up with Tesla to launch space flights. I can't do it. No, it's true.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That is a good one.
But see, so when you look at it, you wonder why Black and brown business is suffering. It's because there's a system in place, and the purpose of this project is to break the system down, because greed and large financial capital motivates people to follow the money. So the purpose of this is to design how the money goes into the community at such a large scale that people let the gates down to let you do your deal. Because
Colette put a note in the chat. NHS is our partner, because when we started talking to folks about this, everybody said all we do is rental affordable housing. And when I say everybody, I spent 14 years in community lending. Everybody said all they do is rental affordable housing.
That's
so NHS is the only organization in Southern California right now that does ownership housing.
And I want to interject this. They have 5,000 interested parties in converting their house into a courtyard fourplex. 5,000 right now.
Wow.
That happened. And we couldn't get the McKinsey study done because everybody focused on rental housing. McKinsey services was $1 million pro bono. Nobody would accept it because they're like, we just do rental. So Finding Neighborhood Housing and California Community Foundation came and they were like, Antonio Hernandez said, oh, I'll do it. Right on. So even that, in a case where we get free services, people don't support. So I'll stop, Crystal, because I know.
Well, part of it is that two things get the attention of a politician, and that's votes and money. Okay.
Right.
And if, in order for someone to gain, the concept that the mindset is that somebody else is losing. In order to get a larger slice of the pie, somebody has to be willing to take a smaller slice of their pie. You know, if they've got, 90% or 95%, and you're trying to increase from 5 to 7, they got to lose 2%. They don't want to do that. And those where that money is, that's generally the ones who are making the larger contributions to our elected officials in order for them to get there. So there's opposition there that prevents something from moving forward unless they're brought in. Just like Michael said, you're set up. You can't be a prime. You've got to be a sub, because it's set up to protect those primes that are already there. And so until that gets kind of flushed out, in the old days, projects got done because elected officials and people, they got money under the table. They got influence, and now with computers and stuff, that's harder to do. So things can get stalled, and it's a challenge. The only way that happens is by activism coming from the community, people signing petitions, helping to make that happen. If you run into one of the elected officials,
George,
I was on this.
Let me interject this, and Crystal, give me like 15 seconds. A friend of mine said it very well. It's the challenge you have when you're Black. He said, Negroes only believe in movie stars, athletes, and dope dealers. Because you hit it on the head when you said a lot of money, right? And so I actually watched a gentleman who represents a capital firm, Black, very successful, get a meeting with a public official in a week to talk about raising rents. Because he said the law that they have on rental controls is hurting him from having investors, and he buys property in underserved communities. So I said, and he said, actually, and this person actually said, we should be doing things like red states. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? But that's the perception. Now, if I was a rich cat, I could get a meeting. It would be easy, I brought Emmett Smith out here. We were doing this. That's how this project kind of got started. Met with every official 5 years ago, right? Because they wanted to take a picture with Emmett, right? That's the challenge we have within ourselves, right? So, George,
but the beautiful thing let me
just finish one point. The key there is the activism. The activism within the community, all right? And that's the whole thing. Because Michael's going to continue to run into opposition. He's going to continue to not be able to get the attention of elected officials because there's pressure for them not to do it. So we have to apply the pressure for them to do it. That was my point there.
You're right, but I'm going to say last thing, and I'll cut. Officials are scared to go out front. You don't have like Tom Brady who would say, hey, it sounds like a good idea. Really, officials will not go out there, and this is politics, period, unless somebody else is out there, right? That's the whole thing. And the thing is, I understand people can't comprehend this until we sit and have a session like this, that they won't go out there.
However, the beautiful thing is we got $1 million report from McKinsey, which is a global think tank, pro bono. We have Jacobs Engineering at the table. They see 25 years worth of business, infrastructure business in this situation. We have California Community Foundation, one of the largest well-heeled foundation organizations in the United States. We have neighborhood housing services with over 50 years of experience of doing ownership housing. So have we stacked the deck against what we know is the hurdle? Yes, we have. And still have yet to have a meeting with a Holly Mitchell. I'm sorry, I'm just going to call it out. I love the woman to death, but I need, when it's come to business, love ain't got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it has to.
Also, she's looking for a legacy project, right? I'm like, you bring.
Yeah, but we got to make it, like you just said, if you didn't bring Emmett out, then we didn't quite get the attention. So we have to. Here's the thing: when I look at other communities, I look at the Asian community, I look at the Hispanic community. They come out in droves, whether they like each other or they don't like each other. They come out in droves. The LGBTQ community came out in droves. Trump's community comes out in droves, guys. So we have to come in, and Greg said this the other day. I think we had an afterglow conversation about the squeaky wheel gets wheels turned. And that's what we need to do. Here's a quote that I put on my Facebook page the other day. It says, people often say with pride, I'm not interested in politics. They might as well say, I'm not interested in my standard of living, my health, my job, my rights, my freedom, my future, or any future. If we mean to keep any control over our own worlds and lives, we must be interested in politics, which means we have to be able to step up and speak on behalf of projects that are going to benefit us. And I always have to go back to our children. That's going to benefit our children. We can no longer sit and be quiet. We're kind of at the last 3 seconds of a Laker game. And they've been up by 20, and all of a sudden they are down by 0. So this is where we are right now. And we need to make something. We have to help and support if we want a better place. Sarah?
Hi, Sarah.
Thanks, Crystal. I know we're up at 12 o'clock. Just real quick, I had another meeting I had to be on, and so I joined this one late. And of course, the BBA is here as one of the organizations to support. I would like to be brought up to speed more about what was discussed here today. So, Michael, let's meet up and talk. But that's what we're here for. Come together and support, and you need that ground root swell of voices to help be on your side and make it so that the elected officials won't feel alone. That's precisely what we're here to do. So thank you, Michael, for coming today.
And Cheyenne, who's not here, but her otter has some takeaways from the meeting. So if you guys will copy and paste that. So thank you, Cheyenne. We don't know who Cheyenne is, but there you go, a summation of the whole meeting. But so Stephen was saying that there's going to be a letter. Stephen, is that what it is?
Michael, we will work with you with the letter. We'll run over the BB. Sarah write it to Sarah. Recycling Black Dollars, Edwin Lombard from California Black Chamber. We have another number of organizations that are behind you. And so we'll work on that on your behalf.
That's a very good idea, Stephen. Thank you.
Okay.
If you had a letter, and actually I would copy all the officials in that letter, right? Some I have on part of Mitchell, so you can send it to the mayor because she actually knows how to look. She knows, like she said, hooks up with everybody. She can bring everybody together, and that's what she's good at. And
I think Stephen, we might want to reach out to Los Angeles Urban League as well. So if you want, I'll pass that on over to that.
You're on the list,
yeah, on that list. There's also another issue going on in the community that I don't know about you guys, but I support this shopping center. So there's a governmental agency that's targeting to do a redevelopment for the Ladera Shopping Center, where the Ralph's is, where the Ross is, where the CVS is. They want to, I guess they want to put an apartment building there.
On the mall?
at the mall. They want to tear down the mall and put it.
I mean, on the Dare shopping, it seems like the right opportunities. What's across the street where the
where everything looks dilapidated? That area over there, which is not North Inglewood.
But you know, our black people are gonna get mad at the townhouse. It better be incorporated.
Right, exactly. But that's really important. If you remove that Ralph, now we have no Ralph. We have to go all the way to Playa Vista to go to the Ralphs, or go down on.
That would be a travesty. No.
That would be a travesty. I get my nails done over there.
Pisser too.
So they actually had a town hall meeting over. They were actually coming in the housing development, urban development, and going to have a meeting without notifying the community. The 100 members showed up to that meeting, and but they need us, because I know I shop over there. I know that's where I do my grocery shopping, and that's where I get my nails done. I've been doing that for 30-some years. And that would be a travesty to put a super housing development, which none of us could be able to afford to live in it, there. That's insane. So,
but more importantly, we got a transportation issue. We got an ingress egress issue along Centinela and La Cienega and Slauson. Yeah. You know, right now, I've been in this house 43 years at Centinela and La Brea. It takes me 30 minutes to go from my house or come from the Fox Hills to my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The traffic is horrendous. And so this is the other part about it. It's not just the density of it all. It's the idea that you take away parking, you take away our local shopping, and then you impact the neighborhood with all of this traffic.
Well, that project's about the deal, really. So if you think about it, you can get about 1,000 units over there.
Right.
Whoever develops it, they're going to build it, rent it, get their fees, and sell it to an insurance. That's where our communities get exploited, where you get the deal for somebody else. And then where's everybody going to go shopping? There's no other grocery store. I mean, you're going to go to La Brea and Centinela?
Well, they close. Well, yeah, you got that Rouse, but remember
that's not the type of Rouse that serves the market of your neighborhood.
No, not that side. They closed the one on 10th Avenue. So I guess we just not supposed to eat on this side of the town. So, but again, all that to be said, squeaky wheels get the wheels done. So Stephen, whenever you get that letter together, we're going to be sending that out to everyone that's on our mailing list. Guys, we got to be involved, and please, I'm sure it's going to be a copy paste to make it as easy as possible. Just send it to all the representatives that's on the list, and let's get that out. So,
Stephen, who's on next week?
Who's on the copy everybody, and then everybody sees everybody's talking to everybody, like Heather, Marquise, Holly, Mitchell, Mayor Bass, all of them, get them in there.
And call them out on their social medias, and we're going to put it on our social medias and tag them all. Right. Seems like when you do something on Facebook and social, Instagram and TikTok, folks start to be listening.
Yeah. And one of the questions that, at least, is that, what is everybody doing to direct all this money that Biden's got together to come into our communities? Right? I mean, that is
the question.
That's the reason why people say he hasn't done anything. I'm like, he's ready to do it again. Remember, he asked for 3.8 trillion. They only gave him 1.6 trillion, and then he had to figure out how to do it. They actually only gave him 1.2. Then he went after the Inflation Reduction Act, but it's got 400 billion in climate funds for investment into underserved communities.
Wow.
So
most recently he did another iteration of paying off these student loans.
Yeah.
He did a whole iteration of that.
I think Stephen's telling us time off.
Yeah. So Stephen,
Michael, again, you and I will have a conversation, and I'll bring Robin into that as we put together a plan of action, a call of action. And next week guest, we have Natasha Andrews. She's a law professor at Rutgers University. She's co-founder of Attorney for Cannabis. She's going to talk about the legal ramifications in the cannabis, marijuana, weed industry. So tune in for next week.
So we're really going to dive into the weeds, right?
Weed every day. I didn't get shit done when I was in college. Weed every day.
That's how you get the project done, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I think we should sign off so we can get into our afterglow conversation.
All righty, guys. Thank you all for
Thank you.
coming. Our Albert and I think Kyle, you're new. Come back next week.
Ryan,
We
yeah.
always have great conversations like this. Tara, please come back. And I think there was someone else, Brian. Oh, there you go, Brian, up at the top. So please come back. These are the kind of conversations we have on a weekly basis. Please, this platform, it's going to be uploaded to YouTube at the community briefing, but as well as it's on Recycling Black Dollars Facebook page. So go over there. Please share it with everyone. This is a conversation that we need, all of us Black folks. I know it ain't a whole lot of us, 13% of us, but heck, the 13%, we can make some differences if we actually get up and really get engaged and involved. So thank you so much, Brian. Come back again. Albert, come back again. Renee, we don't see you today, but hello, Renee. And Kyle, please, guys, come back again. And if you have any guests that you feel would be very beneficial for this platform, just refer them over to us and we'll reach out and bring them on. So thank you, Michael. You're awesome as usual. Appreciate it. All right. So we'll see you all next Thursday, same time, 11 a.m. Yes, Kyle, if you signed up, you will get start getting the e-blast. I will pull you on into the email. Same with you, Brian, and anyone else. See you guys next week. We're going off.